So this gives another aspect of Max Miller, and honestly I'm not able to reconcile the man. एक तरफ जो आप सुनेंगे as I take you through what he's written, और दूसरी तरफ a man who's trying to Christianize India and break India and break Sanskrit and break Brahmins so that India can be Christianized and civilized and so on and so forth. बहुत दुविधा है, but I'm going to share all of this with you because maybe this is another aspect of another person. I don't know if this book was written first and the letters were written first. I'm not sure. Maybe the man changed. I have no idea, but I'd like to share. So in lecture 3, this is page 57 of this book. I'm going to read a few excerpts for you and across about 15 pages, but a few excerpts. He is writing, he's given this lecture, he's giving this for civil servants who are going to be coming into India from England to rule over us. And he writes, my second lecture, or he says he's lecturing, and so this is a compilation of his lectures. He writes, my second lecture was directed against another prejudice, namely that the people of India with whom the young civil servants will have to pass the best years of their life are a race so depraved morally, and more particularly so devoid of any regard for truth, that they must always remain strangers to us, and that any real fellowship or friendship with them is quite out of the question. So he's basically saying in his second lecture, which I have not read, he's challenging this notion, and in this lecture he writes that he's going to grapple with the prejudice against Sanskrit literature. So there's a lot of Sanskrit. He talks about how Sanskrit is so widespread, how different pandits from any part of the country, from Tamil Nadu to Banaras, to Bengal, wherever he meets them, they are exchanging ideas in Sanskrit, how journals are published in Sanskrit, how they communicate with each other in Sanskrit over any other language, and so on and so forth. And so, I'm going to skip all of that and keep that for another session with all of you, sharing with all of you, because those are very, very valuable and tells us a lot about late 1800s, middle to late 1800s, India, and how Sanskrit was prevalent and so on and so forth. But today I just want to talk about some of his ideas and what was he grappling with, what was he trying to tell civil servants coming from England into India, and just share another aspect of this often demonized man with you. Another excerpt is on page 61. He writes, any candidate who knows but the elements of Sanskrit grammar will well understand what I mean, whether his special vernacular may be Bengali, Hindustani, or even Tamil. To a classical scholar, I can only say that between a civil servant who knows Sanskrit and Hindustani and another who knows Hindustani only, there is about the same difference in their power of forming an intelligent appreciation of India and its inhabitants as there is between a traveller who visits Italy with knowledge of Latin and a party personally conducted to Rome by Messrs. Cook and Company. So, simple but explain करता हूँ हिंदी में कि अगर कोई सिविल सर्वेंट संस्कृत और हिंदुस्तानी दोनों जानता है और दूसरा केवल हिंदुस्तानी जानता है, तो उनकी ability to form an opinion about India and Hindus inhabitants, I'm sure there are Muslims as well, but he's basically talking Sanskrit and culture and all of that, which is not Islamic in India, it is Hindu. So India, Indians and Hindus, he says, is like a traveler जो Italy जा रहा है with knowledge of Latin, and so the ability of this person to appreciate Italy, its architecture and history and art and so on and so forth will be of a totally different grade than a person जो किसी ट्रैवल कंपनी, कुक एंड कंपनी, टॉमस कुक जैसी कंपनी के साथ जो ट्रैवल कर रहा है. तो उन दोनों में जो अंतर होता है वही अंतर होगा अगर कोई सिविल सर्वेंट संस्कृत और हिंदुस्तानी समझेगा और जो केवल हिंदुस्तानी समझेगा. Beautifully captured. In another excerpt on page 62, he says if the Vedas, such as we now have them, were composed about 1500 BC, and if it is a fact that considerable works continue to be written in Sanskrit even now, we have before us a stream of literary activity extending over 3000 years, 3400 years. With the exception of China, there is nothing like this in the whole world. So you see, he's actually appreciative of this. He is recognizing that this is not something that even them in the Western world, in England, have achieved. Barring China, there is nothing like this that the world has seen. He is recognizing that. Literature opens us to a chapter in what has been called the education of the human race, to which we can find no parallel anywhere else. Whoever cares for the historical growth of our language, that is, of our thoughts, whoever cares for the first intelligible development of religion and mythology, he is not talking about England only or only Western thought and ideals and all. He is talking about as a human race. I repeat, that literature opens to us a chapter in what has been called the education of the human race. Yeah, so he's not talking about England and only limited to that. Whoever cares for this historical growth of our language, that is, of our thoughts, whoever cares for the first intelligible development of religion and mythology, whoever cares for the first foundation of what in later times we call the sciences of astronomy, metronomy, grammar, and etymology, whoever cares for the first intimations of philosophical thought, for the first attempts at regulating family life, village life, and state life, as founded on religion, ceremonial tradition, and contract, must in future pay the same attention to the literature of the Vedic period as to the literatures of Greece and Rome and Germany. So, at the bare minimum, he is saying that the literatures of Vedic period are no less than Greece, Rome, or whatever it is in Germany.